Hello everyone. I hope everything is great. So in earlier video, we learned some of the input attributes as you can see in the list. Today, we just continue our discussion on same topic, which is input attributes, and learn some more attributes. So the first attribute that we discussed today is the step attribute. Let me first add this in the list, and then we discuss what is the purpose of this attribute. So step attribute basically specify the interval for an input field, and this attribute is used for the numeric input types like number, like range, date, date time locale, month, time, and week. So let's discuss how we can use this attribute. So what I did, I add one label here, select number, and here I add the input type number and add two break lines so that my submit button will be on next line. Go to browser, refresh. Now you can see this input box is displayed here, and when user enter, he can enter any numeric value. As well, he can select the numeric value by this drop down. By this button, he can increase the number, and the numbers are increased by one step 6, 7, 8, 9. And also, we can decrease the number by 1, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. If we want to change this behavior, we can use the step attribute. So let's use that. We simply need to enter step, and initially let's I add the number 2. By default, its value is 1. I save this file, go to browser, refresh, and now if I increase the value, you can see 2, 4, 5, 5 is missing. It goes to 6, then 8, 10. And same way, the decrement is 8, 6, 4, 2. So the one value is skipped and the second value is out. Okay, if I change it to 3, then steps value is 3, so the increment starts from 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and also the decrement goes to this. Now you can see I can write the value here, but that is not the valid value. For checking this, what I did, I simply add one style in the head tag. If you don't know how to add the style, you can check my CSS video, how you can add the styles in HTML page, and you can get the idea. I select the input, then specific state, which is invalid, and I add the border 4 pixel, solid, and red color. Go to browser, refresh. You can see this mobile number is by default in the red state. Why? Because this field is a required field, and until and unless it have some value, it is the invalid state. It have the invalid state. Same way, if I enter the value 3, 6, then it's valid. But if I manually enter some invalid number, then this field also have the invalid state. So yes, user can enter the value that is not in the correct state, but that will make the field invalid. Let me 13, then it's invalid. And if I add the value 6 that is valid. You can see. So this way you can add the step. Same way you can add the step for the date, time, month and week. Let me quickly copy these two lines and here I get the select date maybe and change type to date. Okay, and first I just remove the step, save this thing, go to browser, refresh. You can see this date field comes here, and when user tap on this calendar box, he can select any date, 10, 11, or maybe any other date, right? Now I specify the step attribute here and give the value 2. Let's see what happens. Go to browser, refresh, and if I open this calendar, you can see first is enabled, second is disabled, third is enabled, fourth is disabled. So user cannot select the second value and fourth value. And this pattern will go to this calendar as well as the next month and even for the next year. If you increase the step, then the dates are disabled dates are increased. Let me change to step 3. Now if I go to this, two dates are disabled, 3 is enabled, 4, 5 is disabled, 6 is enabled. So user can select date 6, but user can't select the 7th, right? And same way, if I manually enter this date to 7, then my field have the invalid state. So this way you can validate the form that it must have the proper value, and also you can set the step. Same way you can specify the step for the week and month. Let me quickly add for week. Go to here, refresh. Now if you can see 2 weeks are disabled. Sixth and seventh week is disabled. 5 you can select 5. You can select 8. You can select 11th. You can select 14th, right? And again, if user select it manually, then it should have the valid week. Otherwise, it assign the invalid state. So that's all about the step attribute. Next attribute that we discussed today is the list attribute. Let's first add this attribute in the list here. List attribute. So basically list attribute have the reference an of a data list, and by this attribute you can create the drop down. So let me quickly give you an example how you can use this. Label select animals. Let me create the list for animals. Here I add the input and add the list attribute, and what this list attribute have, it basically have the ID of an data list. So for that I created one data list. If you don't know what is the data list, we discussed this thing in earlier video. I attach one link inside the description section. You can check it from there. And I add the ID here, animals. And here I give some option with value. Let's assume cat. Copy this line and paste it for multiple times. And change value, maybe rat, elephant, cow, and dog. And give this ID of data list to list attribute animals. It should be the same. Save this file Go to browser, refresh. You can see I missed the two break lines. I quickly add this. You can see select animals is available, and when user hover on this input box, he can see this drop box, and if user tap on this input anywhere, he can see this available list, and from this list he can select any option. He can select elephant. Again he need to tap, or he need to remove this, and he can select dog. Also, this list have the search facility. So if I type C, then it provide two suggestions, cow and cat. Again, if I type the letter O, then it give the option only cow. And if I add some unknown letter, then the options are not available. So the suggestions not available. Okay. If you want to select the multiple options, so that flexibility is only available for the email and file. So for file, you did not use the list attribute. Let me quickly use this for the email. As we discussed, multiple attribute we can only use for email and file. Select emails, animal emails. Okay, and I give the here animal email. Copy this and paste in the IT section and add the email so that my value should be valid for type email. Otherwise, it shows the red border. As we add the CSS in the head section, I quickly add this and this. Save this, go to browser, refresh, and you can see select animal emails. And if you just tap on this, the available options are available. Let me select for red, and now if I tap on the comma and tap again the list should not display yet. So what I need to do, I need to add the multiple attribute here. Multiple. Okay, now we can select the multiple attributes. Let me select red, then comma, tap again. It does not give me the multiple values. We need to check what happens. It give me this. Let me refresh this, save this, and select one, then comma, space. It should give the next value. Let's discuss what goes wrong here. Okay. So as we discussed, by default, input type is the text, and for input type text, this multiple attribute does not work. This will work only for the email and for file. So we need to add the input type here, email. Save this. Let's test this again. I select the red, then comma, and it give me the option to select the second value. I select the cow, again comma. I can select the cat. Yes. So this way you can select the multi email. So that's all about the list attribute. Let's move to the next attribute, which is the autofocus attribute. First, I quickly add the attribute in the list, autofocus attribute. So this attribute is basically used for focusing the input field by default. You can see when user go to this page, user does not have any selected input, right? We need to tap on the input, then type values here, type values this way, right? But if user comes to the first time, then he does not have any selected input box default. So let me select this size attribute and apply the autofocus attribute. Autofocus attribute. Save this, go to browser, refresh, and you can see the size input is now autofocused and user can directly write the values here. You can use this field for multiple times for a single form, but the first autofocus that input have the autofocus. Let me use this for size and as well as for the name input field and check what happens. So first focused input is the name. So this way you can focus an input so that user can directly write inside the form. So that's all about the autofocus. Next is the autocomplete. Autocomplete attribute is basically used for providing some suggestions, and these are basically dependent on browser history. So let me add this to name autocomplete, save this thing, and here two values are available on and off. Okay, so but if without refreshing form, if I tap the values, refresh now. If I type the X, then browser gives the suggestion. And if let me off this, see what happens. Now if I type X, Y, Z, browser does not give any suggestion, right? And if I change the value to on, then if I remove this type X, then it gives the suggestion. So it have the browser history and according to that provides the suggestion. You can give the value on and off, and also you can give this attribute to form level so that each and every input have this attribute accordingly on and off, right? So today we discussed these four attributes: step, list, autofocus, and autocomplete attribute. If you have any questions on any of the attributes, you can comment me on this video and I will definitely provide the answer. If you like this video, then like it, share it, and subscribe my channel. For now, that's all. Goodbye.